Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. So this week we've got some big stuff coming, as we can see from this little thumbnail here. We've got some pretty exciting stuff coming soon. So Dominion, what is it? Well, we're going to dive into that shortly, but essentially it's, as it shows down here, the launch box for the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar number 3. So that's pretty cool. And they don't show much on this preview. I've already had a little look, but we will go through it and just speculate on a few things and maybe clear up a few, possible rumors and things like that. I've now been searching around the internet, looking at other people's, what their takes on this and that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting just to see what actually comes out. And then we have some Kragnos stuff here. So we see the Warscroll, and there is actually a bit of Sister Battle stuff here, but it's not too much. So I'm not going to focus on that for this one. We're just going to focus on the AOS stuff, considering it's the bigger news for the week. So sorry, 40k, but we're gonna stick to that. So let's get into it and have a look and see. We'll start with the Kragnos stuff and see who he is and what's going on. So he's part of that Broken Realms book, and if we come down here, here we go. We get some nice art, and then we get to see what he's all about. So the name of Kragnos was a forgotten one. Not since before Sigmar's reign has he walked among the mortal realms. Now he's set to return in Broken Realms Kragnos this Saturday. Whether you'll be following him into battle or desperately shoring up your defenses against his attacks, it pays to learn all you can about the god of earthquakes. So yeah, he's going to be a bit of an unstoppable force, as we see soon with his Warscroll. You know, he fits in perfectly with destruction. It's definitely a destruction style designed Warscroll for sure. And I feel like he'll be a lot of fun for those players, I think. But we'll get into that in a minute. So let's come down. Nice art. We'll move down to the next bit. So before the time of men, Druiden elves, I suppose that's, dwarves and elves and even greenskins, the entirety of the Gurish heartlands was ruled by many monstrous races that towered over the lesser mortals of the era. One of these tribes was I'm not even going to say that, powerful centaur beings, basically, that despite their great strength and capacity for war, lived in harmony with the land. Legend has it that Kragnos was born to the rulers of Dons? I don't even know how to say that. The central nation of whatever that is. And while his people were content to only take what they needed to survive, Kragnos wanted more. Scolded for beating his brother to a pulp over the right to court the same mare, the bad-tempered warrior struck out across Gur with only a small band of trusted companions for company. So yeah, it seems like a pretty standard sort of backstory for this type of character. You know, spoilt brat kind of character. You know, wanting everything. Seems pretty appropriate for a destruction character. They're all basically Cartman, right? that's pretty much what destruction is. It's basically a whole faction of Cartman. You know, getting annoyed when they don't get what they want. So don't ask me to do the voice, but you get the idea. So let's come down and have a look. As they grew skilled in the arts of war, these Drogrock, I guess, fashioned weapons and armor from exposed streams of magma, I guess. Yep, magma, with Kragnos digging out the heart of a supercharged geomantic nexus to create his prized dread mace. I'm assuming that's something to do with the new lore of Age of Sigmar. Maybe that's at the heart of each realm, I think, is what that means. It was around this time that he also recovered the shield, Tuskbreaker, from a deep ravine, having been hurled there in fury when Gork Morka chipped his tooth, testing to the great bronze shield like a man might test a gold coin. Because I think in the original bit when we first saw this, it said that Kragnos here broke their tooth, but it looks like it was just the shield. I don't know, that's weird. It doesn't really say that he did it, but anyway, all good. We come down here. Yeah, the shield and everything, the mace looks cool. It's a nice design. And then we move in. So the Uruks of Gur began to gather around Kragnos, impressed by tales of his rampant destruction, and for his part, Kragnos respected their single-minded brutality and stubbornness. Shamans offered up the marrow of slain monsters and hordes of priceless amber bone, which the Drogrock champion was all too happy to gorge on. As his diet of realm stone and monster marrow concentrated the primordial energies of Gur into him, Kragnos began to exhibit abilities beyond any mortal warrior. His ascent to power was marked by the crushing of countless civilizations until word spread across the mortal realms of the end of empires, whose arrival spelt doom for all. Okay, cool. Yeah, it looks pretty good. And here we go, a bit more. While the ground had always shaken at his footfalls, it now cracked and sundered wherever Kragnos went. At the Battle of Blood Gulch, an enormous fissure opened up and swallowed the monster-hunting Garaga. What's it, Garaga? I don't know. But there's too many, specialty Games Workshop copyright words in this tale. They need to get some more generic stuff in there. Barbarians wait, here we go. Barbarians hold, giving rise to his legend as god of earthquakes. All right, I think I'm going to end my lore video there, because that's going to go on forever. But you get the idea anyway. So he's pretty cool. They're giving him like it's not the most interesting of backstories, but it's very destruction. So it's very straightforward. How he comes to be. All good. The real thing is the model's cool and the rules are good, and that's cool, and we'll make everyone happy. So let's take a look and see what he's like. So here we go. Now it doesn't give you the points. We're all kind of, I guess, all speculating on that. But judging by the others of his size and type, I kind of feel like he'll be a bit more overpointed than under, judging by some of the current stuff that's around. But you might get lucky, and he might be in a good points range. But it's unlikely, I think, considering the way the game's going and how, to me anyway, AOS feels generally a bit overpointed on a lot of them. But that's just from the outside looking in. So I kind of feel like he will be too. But, you might get lucky. So he's got 18 wounds, 2+ save, bravery 10. He has different movement depending on how he's bracketed. The hooves of Rack and Ruin can be, brought down a little bit. So his max movement's only 10. So that means, and from the looks of it, he doesn't have other abilities. So one of the key features of this, I'll just do a brief overview, is that he doesn't seem to have other abilities that allow like command abilities and things like that. He just has his special rules for his weapons and armor and so on, and that's it. So, and even when you ally him into other armies, it looks like the only way you're going to get additional buffs or abilities on this guy is through, your other allied stuff that if you're lucky, will affect him, but it looks like he just does what he says on the tin, and that's about it, which is fine. It's very straightforward, but it does mean that from the looks of it, and listen to others talk on this, you might be able to block him or prevent his movement across the table. In terms of shooting him off or maging him off, he does have this shield, which we're going to have a quick look at, which will make it a bit harder for people to, I think, kill him initially, but yeah, he does feel like players will figure out ways to stop this guy. I don't think he's got enough tricks in the bag, at least as he stands like this, unless he gets his own sub-faction thing that adds more to him. I think players, or at least higher-end players, are going to know how to deal with this pretty easily, because everything is straightforward. There's no wacky little special things that are changing him up particularly. So you're just looking at that 10-inch move and then how to block or keep him tied up and focus on the rest of the list. Because if he ends up being overpointed, it means there's going to be less on the table of high value threats on top of this guy. He'll be basically the only one, probably one or two more, but you're not going to get that much more. Otherwise, you're going to have nothing on the table. And considering how objective-based the game is going, both in 40k and AOS, I would imagine that you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket kind of deal. You need at least smaller units to take objectives and so on. So I feel like, he'll be a lot of fun, but the higher end players, I think, will work out how to sort this guy out. So anyway, but we'll see. Maybe not. So basically, he's got a whole bunch of rules here. He's got a shield that can block incoming magic on a 3d6 roll. But as the little note down here says, the designer's note, it goes off the Warscroll's casting value, not what's actually rolled. So that means like lower value, let's say you roll really high, but the casting value on the actual Warscroll is only 5 or 6, then he's going to be able to beat that pretty easy on 3d6, and he has to beat the roll, it looks like. So if the roll is greater, so you can't equal it, you got to beat it. But on 3d6, that's going to be pretty easy for most standard spells. So you're going to have something pretty powerful to actually hit him and not get negated. So that means you only got shooting, and with a 2+ save, that's going to be tricky. 18 wounds. You know, he's probably going to get to combat, but the way you do that, as I said, is by blocking him and stopping him from actually getting to a valuable combat. So the trade is always worse for him. That's kind of the idea. But we'll see what happens. So he's got a rage here, which I think does mortal wounds around him. I think that can affect your own guys as well. We'll just have a look. Each unit, this is to do with, I think, okay, so at the end of any phase, if any wounds were allocated to this model in that phase and not negated, roll a dice for each other unit and each defensible terrain feature within 6 inches, roll equal to or greater than, the rage value shown on this model's damage table. That unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So it's pretty cool. He has like a way of like dishing out wounds, you know, as he cops wounds, he'll be dishing them out, kind of thing, which is cool. And then we have his rampage, which is a pretty cool rule. So as he goes in, he's going to affect either a single monster or units within 1 inch of him, where he finishes his charge, and then you roll 2d6. If you roll a dice for each enemy unit within 1 inch, so if you roll a dice for each enemy unit within of this model, on a 2+, that unit suffers d6 mortal wounds. And if it's the monster, you roll a 2d6. On a 7, nothing happens, but any other dice roll apart from the 7, you'll then do, let's see, for example, and then it suffers the number that you roll. So that's really cool. So you could, on average, kill, you know, let's say 10 to 12 wounds, maybe, something like that, possibly. Around there, so you got a good chance of maybe knocking out, like one-shotting something, which is you know, a lot of fun. But then a percentage of the time, and I've heard someone else talk about this, the percentage is, I think, maybe it's about 18 to 20% or something, he won't do anything or whatever. So, you know, you got a bit of a difference there, and about a quarter of the time he'll do enough damage to knock something out. So, you know, you've got your little, like, I guess, poker element there, you know, that chance. But all good. Everything is working out here, I think, for a destruction character. And then, you know, so he's sort of negating magic a bit. He's got his like big, massive charge. He starts dishing out some mortal wounds as he gets wounded. And then we have over here, add 1 to bravery characters of friendly destruction. Okay, so that's good. So it buffs them a bit. And if you're taking like, you know, goblins and stuff like that with low leadership, then that's probably going to, or bravery in this case, that might help out. But overall is pretty standard, as you can see. So there's no like kind of crazy stuff. If you ally him in, he doesn't get their keywords or whatever, so he can't benefit from army allegiance abilities and stuff like that. But as I said, if he ends up getting his own little sub-faction thing, that he might actually get added some, you know, keywords or whatever that help him get buffed and so on by other things around him, which you know, I guess will improve what will probably be a slightly higher point costed unit. But, you know, I'm only new to this side of fantasy. You know, my experience is in Warhammer, so you know, old school fantasy. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this character. But he looks really fun, and it's a cool model. So I'm sure Destruction guys are really happy. So that's cool. So let's move on now to our final installment, which is Dominion. So Dominion is going to be very similar to Indominus from 40k. When 9th edition dropped, you got that big box, and it's very good value. So, you know, I mean, if you're interested in Stormcast or what the other faction will be, which will be a Destruction faction, almost 100%, you're going to be wanting to get in on this, because it is going to be probably the best value box you'll be able to buy. They're always good. And if my instincts are correct, they're going to make Stormcast as efficient as Space Marines, or as near to it as possible, which will make them like a perpetually strong faction. And I've talked about this before. I think that's important. I mean, some people will hate that idea, but AOS really needs a faction to hang itself on, just like 40k has, to keep it strong, you know, in terms of their products and so on. So they feel like they'll keep adding to it. The more stronger, you know, that faction is, the more people and how popular it is, then they're always getting that influx, and that means that they'll be able to do more interesting things and sideline games and smaller stuff and more additive stuff and you know, different characters, because without that, they might just retcon it again. They've done it once, so they know it's possible, and they know they can kickstart it again, and they know that they can just steamroll on and just do another game. So there's nothing stopping them from doing it a second time. You know what I mean? So to prevent stuff like that, they really do need to nail down a quintessential design and aesthetic for AOS that feels really strong, and not just for us as gamers and players who are already invested, but I'm talking more about new people that are seeing this from the outside. And I think that their design that they've gone to with those new Stormcasts that we've seen during the Warhammer Fest, I think that's definitely on the right track. They're looking like they're really nailing a very classic design there, and I think that's going to help really bring people in, and that's what you need. So saying that, it'll be a really good gaming army, I'm assuming. So I definitely would, if I was designing this, I would make sure that faction is solid, so it doesn't drop off like the previous book has in terms of its power. So I would make sure it spikes early, and then as they FAQ it and so on, it might get pegged back a little bit, just like Space Marines do, but it should come out of the box pretty solid, so it can survive 2 to 3 years of an edition or whatever. I think that's my general thoughts on this. Now, in terms of the other faction, from what it looks like, it's going to be some kind of goblinoid race. Apparently there's, a still image somewhere in an animation or with the Warhammer Plus stuff that's coming that shows it, or something somewhere shows it, of like a hooded kind of goblinoid figure. So who knows if it's goblins or orcs, but it looks like it's some kind of hybrid. My guess is it's a copyrightable name and an idea so that they can own it. But it sounds like it's going to be, the descriptions sound a bit like a sort of hobgoblin type creature, but what its actual lore and backstory is, who knows. But definitely a sneaky vibe, so that'll be fun, and a good adversary, and hopefully it plays interestingly. That's what I hope. Hopefully it has a nuanced play style that's different from other Destruction factions, so that within Destruction you have a few more styles that you can try, not just move forward smash. There might be some more nuanced play there, maybe more MSU style, like smaller unit type of deal, where you're like really almost like the way, let's say, like Eldar and so on play in 40k Harlequins and so on, maybe have some really nifty little units that can do a lot of like interesting things around the board, but if you can keep them in combat and bog them down, and then they die, but they have that fragility, but they have some really cool, nasty abilities they could do. That'd be a lot of fun and different for, I guess, most orc and goblin kind of armies, that sort of thing. Usually it's a lot of big, brutish forces. Even with goblins, you got a lot of en masse hordes. Like this one, maybe not being so much hordes, maybe it's a little bit smaller and a bit more elite, but with goblinoid creatures, that'd be like a flip. You'd never see that really in fantasy. At least I don't think so. Maybe AOS that's changed, but just somewhere in there, just something different for Destruction players to enjoy. So that'll be good. But that's pretty much what the rumor is. So it looks like it's going to be some kind of goblinoid creature. And on Saturday, we're going to find out about that. So that's Saturday, 29th of May. If you're in Australia, you're basically going to have to stay up all night. So if we have a look at the regions over here, poor Aussies, we're going to have to stay up till 3 a.m. to see what it is. I may or may not do that. I work on the weekends, so, that's probably not going to happen. But for all those that are in much better time zones, you all get at least a slightly better, improved version of this, and you'll be able to see what it is. But like most of these kinds of boxes, it is likely to get sold out, or at least maybe not on release, but very quickly. So I would imagine if you really want this, then you just go ahead and pre-order it as soon as it comes up. I'm sure they're producing more than, let's say, for a secondary box like Curse City was, or that like a smaller game system. This is their second biggest thing that they support, so I would imagine it's going to have more on the size or the numbers as Indominus had. So, depending on the region you're in, you'll probably be able to find it. I found Indominus boxes well after its release in hobby shops. So if you find your local ones, often they'll have a few there. So I don't think it's like a huge deal. I don't think it's going to be as bad as something like Curse City, but definitely they're going to see it sell out very quickly, if not immediately. That is still a possibility. But if I were them, and I'd want to make more money, so I would just make more of them, because you're going to sell them. And so, yeah, Who knows? But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to put any, definites on that. But certainly you want to be looking out for this just to make sure you either like it or hate it, or if the factions appeal to you, then yeah, you'll want to consider it, I think. And the pricing should be decent enough. It won't be as good as Indominus. I'm sure the price has gone up since then, so it probably won't be on that price point. It'll be probably, 10 to $20 more. If you're in Australia, it's probably going to require a second mortgage. Might be $1,000 more. Who knows? You might need to sell a kidney. No, don't do that. But you know what I mean? The Australia, New Zealand, but I don't even want to talk about New Zealand. New Zealand, probably you're looking at doing some, you're going to have to do some rituals, probably do some sacrifices to some dark gods. You're going to have to do some serious stuff to get the money together to buy one of these boxes. So good luck to you, New Zealanders. But otherwise, everyone else in the world, it should be, it'll be an increase, but maybe not as much as, let's say, places like Australia and New Zealand and that sort of thing. We're probably going to see a much bigger hike than most will. But anyway, it is what it is, right? It's just the nature of the beast. It's always been that way since the early days. So there's nothing new there. So otherwise, that's my thoughts on this. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, all that stuff really helps me out. And we'll see what happens on Saturday. I'll definitely cover whatever happens and do it for next week. But otherwise, I guess I'll catch you on the next one.